Oxford defines the word convention to mean a way in which a thing is usually done. Generally, we could accept that convention is considered the correct way of doing a thing. So what are some conventions when it comes to writing? Being clever apes, human beings invented narrative theory. Narrative theory is the study of structures that govern the logic of how stories are told and unfold. This includes plot structures, such as the three-act structure, where a beginning or inciting incident begins the plot, that moves from a middle to an ending sequence, the falling action. Then comes story models, that are maps or elements of flow to a story that is determined by some kind of logic or rationality. An example being something like six-ring theory, where a story is essentially broken down into a design and functions according to the logic of that design. This falls under the blanket term of structuralism, that being the focus on analytical theories that denote the governing factors of what constitutes and moves a story forward. We could say that stories, then, are conventionally made, and to appeal to our conventional logic. But what if I told you a controversial and maybe even difficult idea? What if narrative is itself convention? In essence, when we're taking a story and designing it from beginning to end with a predetermined point, themes and narrative we're trying to achieve then, this contrivance of reality rather than a depiction of it. Designing a story is pretentious in the way that life does not cohere to our neat little six-circle structures, since in life there can be endings that achieve nothing, where we don't get a lover's dramatic confession or a cathartic moment of goodbye at a deathbed. Sometimes in life, things just piddle off into nothing, or go somewhere totally different than where we expected them to. If we applied this way of thought to narrative, then we could invent a new term called gonzo narrative theory, after the famous school of journalism, gonzo, that encourages participation and the acceptance of embracing subjectivity. In gonzo narratives, life is often more unpredictable and chaotic than crafted events and plots. Spontaneity can radically diverge the flow of a story from one theme or mood to another, without the need for clean or neatly satisfying endings that prove a thematic point. Rather, the point is that reality is often unresolved and mysterious, with no clear indications, often whether we even won or lost. Why might we embrace gonzo narrative in the face of highly organized narrative structures that design stories? Precisely because they are structures, and their designs may be beautiful, they don't accurately reflect reality. This approach is, by design, unconventional, because it rejects the idea that stories must function in only certain ways that are intellectually or emotionally satisfying to piece together like a puzzle. Gonzo narrative instead opts for the raw, unfiltered truth of life that can be joyous or filled with sorrow, and that one can lead into or out of the other, just as life does, without the need to explanatory exposition or literal narration. Essentially, I see narrative structures as contrived, because what life is far more chaotic than how we humans like to arrange stories into neat little boxes of sequential logic. This being my final point, the very essence of the word convention also has similarity to the word convenience. Indeed, that is what much of our narrative ideas are. Conveniences that we as a civilization have developed over millennia. And as such, we take them for granted as not only the proper way of doing things, but the only way to do them. And I believe that the future of storytelling is in lifelike, gonzo narratives that don't necessarily need to embrace anything convenient, just to tell their stories. I think this will ultimately lead to more raw and honest entertainment, stripped back of the glitzy productions of the past that focused on theories of plot structure or how to characterize people in the story. I think this will save storytelling, and I implore you to think the same.